All right. Hi, it's me again. In case you didn't tune in for that live demo that just wrapped up, I'm Richard.
And I'm Sachin. Roger, it was nice to see you in your new role, Symbol Shops Demo Captain.
Yeah, thanks for hiring me back. I'm glad to be back. So our friends from the live demo are going to be sticking around to answer any of the questions you may have. So you may see their faces throughout this show as well. So let's just jump right in with a little poll. What gets you fired up about tech using serverless platforms, running GKE anywhere? How about continuously building software, or heck, even just having breakfast for dinner? Throw your results in there. I'd love to see what you have to say. So while we wait for that, a reminder, this Q&A is completely live. You can engage with us directly, ask your questions, say hi in the chat, yell at us, or at least Sachin, not me. I'm doing my best. If you can't, though, go back to the next event website, click on that blue Join Interactive Experience button, and we'll wait for you over here. All right, now time for some poll results. Let's see what we have. Anything coming in so far? What do we think fires people up? What fires you up, Sachin?
Look, besides breakfast for dinner, it's all about Google Distributed Cloud. I mean, the ability to have that consistent management, run anywhere, meeting our customers where they're at, fully managed solutions is just absolutely incredible. And what Gabriele showed up there with Vidya, that was just fantastic.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Well, I'm looking at the results so far. You all are just animals eating breakfast for dinner. So good job.
I was right.
Yeah, do whatever you want. Live your life. That's great. So let's get started with our first question. This one comes from Jessica. So when would I use Anthos on bare metal infrastructure versus that Google distributed cloud at edge? How do I make a decision between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for that question. So first of all, let me just go back to that Symbol Shops retail example. If you're a customer, you have your own hardware, it's customized for that environment perhaps, and you're just looking for a stack on top to run, Anthos bare metal is a great option. But if you're a customer where you just want to consume the whole stack, hardware, software, as a service, and you want to leave all that complexity to us, then the Google Distributed Cloud product is a great solution for that. And so we want to be very flexible about it. Yeah. You get to choose based on what your needs are.
It's nice to have the software-based option or the software and hardware. It's
exactly,
a little
exactly. Because different customers, same customer may have two use cases as well.
That's right. But the same control plane.
But the same control plane, same experience. Deploy, write once, build once, deploy anywhere.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So this one's going to be for you, Sachin, as well. We're just going to pummel you with questions to start with. So this one comes from Mike. So, or you know what? Val's asking us questions. Let's switch questions up. This one's going to go to Vidya. I'll give you a breather right now.
Sounds good.
I'll worry out on that one. So, Vidya, this one's for you. Are there other managed services that people might want to adopt as they become more cloud native? What did they start picking up as they start making this move to cloud?
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. So as you deploy more microservices, you can easily leverage our fully managed serverless orchestration products like workflows or event arc so that you can connect as well as coordinate Google Cloud services such as Cloud Functions, Cloud Run, HTTP-based API services, including third-party services, so that you can tie them all up into serverless workflows. And this really helps you address those type of use cases which require business-critical, mission-critical workflows so that you can actually have inbuilt error handling, retries, observability built in so that everything actually executes reliably and flawlessly.
Love it. Thank you very much, Vidya. Good. Next one, this one is for you, Sachin. Buckle up here. Okay. So Robert from Liberty Mutual is asking us about kind of the OS support for Anthos. So when I think about, we know Anthos supports Windows and Linux, which is great. So I was curious about what flavors of Linux will it support AIX. So where are we at on some of the operating systems?
The Anthos support we have is consistent with Anthos that you have from a software-only point of view.
Yeah.
So with Google Distributed Cloud, we just carry it forward. And what we're doing is we're certifying that solution on top of hardware that we've prescribed.
Right.
And I think there was a question that I was seeing in chat, which is about, hey, what kind of hardware we certified? So we've gone in, we have hardware from Dell, from HPE, we've got GPUs from NVIDIA, and so it's a different hardware for different scenarios, and then on top of that, whatever Anthos provides, we can bring to bear.
Yeah, and for Anthos on bare metal, just out of interest, so you can run RHEL, CentOS, Ubuntu, so we support all of those as well. So we do try to give you a good set of choices there. Awesome. We're throwing more stuff at Sachin. Let's do it.
Okay.
So are you seeing any customer preference so far for GKE Autopilot versus GKE Standard? GKE Standard's amazing. It's got all the knobs and dials. Autopilot's just turnkey, ready to go. Are you seeing any change in preferences?
First of all, we've seen massive adoption of GKE Autopilot. So it's really opened the door, I think, for many, many customers who wanted to get the benefit of Kubernetes and containers, but wanted it to be sort of automatically set up for them. But you still have customers who don't just want that Kubernetes API, they actually they have an existing cluster or they have an environment that's fine-tuned for their needs, very, very large-scale deployments where GKE works great. And so I think with the combination of GKE and GKE Autopilot, we can now cater to any of those needs.
Yeah, I think as we looked at the data, we've actually seen a lot of Autopilot customers are just new Google Cloud customers as well.
Right.
It's a great first foray into Kubernetes.
Exactly. They can get going so quickly. I mean, again, the demos that were showed just now were fantastic, right?
Now even I can use it. Yeah, that's great stuff.
Exactly.
More stuff for you, Sach. This one's coming from Jude. So how do I choose which container-oriented compute service to use? Now, we don't necessarily have the 17 ways that other clouds offer. We have maybe fewer, more focused services, but there's still choices. I'm not just one way to run containers. So how should someone make some decisions there?
Yeah, so I think, look, we do try to keep it simple, but there are some choices. So if you have something that's compute heavy, where it's a lot of self-managed software that you have, self-managed services that you're creating. It could be that you have your own databases. It could be a middleware messaging. That's where we think GKE is best. But if you're a consumer of a lot of the managed services and you've got some adjacent code that complements those services, then Cloud Run is fantastic. And so again, not the 17 choices like you mentioned, but there are a few choices based on how you're using that containerized environment.
Yeah, that's a crisp way of thinking about it. Good stuff. All right, Spencer's asking us, Anthos for VMs is interesting. We announced that, and it seems wild. We've been just talking containers all this time. Now we're talking VMs. So what in the world is the use case for that? Why would I think about having Anthos manage virtual machines?
Great question once again. And look, again, we've been super clear about this. We want to meet customers where they're at. And while customers are looking to modernize and want to be on GKE, on Kubernetes, containerized, they do have some software components, some applications that require a VM environment. And so the ability to have that one consistent management plane and have the sort of lowered cost of running VMs or containers on top of Kubernetes, that's a very powerful combination. So Anthos for VMs is just to make sure that while they're looking to modernize, whatever pieces of software that they have that requires that VM environment, they can bring it along consistently as they do the transition.
Yeah, it seems powerful to again flatten maybe the operational tool chain. Just treat VMs containers the same way. That's really going to simplify hiring, just management, those sorts of things.
Exactly. And if the VMs go away at some point, great. If they're going to be there running next to the containers, that's great. But that consistency of management reduces the operational cost.
Yeah, no, that's a great call. This one's going to go to Vidya. So Alex is asking us about Cloud Run. And look, this is something that we talk a lot about. We love Cloud Run. Cloud Run's terrific. So what's new and interesting there? Like what's been happening in the Cloud Run world?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So here are some new features that might be interesting. Number one, to further secure your Cloud Run environment, we just went GA with binary authorization so that you can deploy your trusted container images. Number two, you can now run even more workloads, for instance, workloads that may need background processing. And we offered additional always-on CPU allocation controls, which comes with new pricing. There are no request fees. Memory and CPU is priced about 25% lower. The third feature that might be interesting to call out is that while Cloud Run free tier continues to exist, we also now recently introduced committed use discounts so that you can actually get up to 17% discount for over a year, 1 year commitment.
That's great. Awesome. Thanks, Vidya. Yeah, I think some of that committed use stuff is terrific. Same with the security features. I mean, Cloud Run is one of the best security-oriented just container runtimes out there, in addition with GKE. Awesome. Another question. This one's coming in for you again, Sachin. I'm glad you're ready. Vladimir's asking us, what is the benefit of doing Anthos Edge versus Anthos on VMware? And are those even different, I guess, to start with, if we think about the question? Could you do on VMware at the edge? How do you think about then our distributed cloud edge? I guess kind of help demystify this.
I think it's, if I think about the question, it feels a little bit similar to the previous question, which is, what are you actually trying to do? If you're actually trying to modernize, then the Anthos environment, where we provide that simple management plane built on Kubernetes, where you can run containerized applications, but you can also run VMs now, you're on a path to modernization. Right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for operational cost reduction, simplification, but you want to be into this sort of new world, in the containerized world. that's where there wins. And so, but there are going to be other options on-prem that you can run. And then similar to, perhaps other solutions that may be out there where it's not just a software layer, you can package the hardware and the software completely together. That's where Google Distributed Cloud that's built on Anthos comes together. So it's really a question, are you looking to modernize? Is it just a pure legacy environment, then that's how it's going to remain? If you're looking to modernize and you need the flexibility of having VMs as well, Anthos and Anthos for VMs is perfect.
Yeah, and if you have a VMware footprint at the edge already, then obviously we can run right on top of that and everything's amazing. So I like the flexibility that will work with what you have.
And look, if you want to run that VMware footprint inside Google Cloud in our regions, for that you have Google Cloud VMware Engine, and we support that. And so we're very flexible based on what customers are trying to achieve.
Yeah, awesome. Another one for you, Sachin. This one's, I think, is interesting. So I thought Anthos was already multi-cloud. What are we talking about with a multi-cloud API? Weren't we already doing that? Or is what's new with a multi-cloud API?
Yes, Anthos, look, has been multi-cloud for over a year now, right?
Yeah.
And so the multi-cloud API is really about, instead of having to bring up your clusters, your GKE clusters, and the control plane as well in every single cloud, you can now just run that control plane in Google Cloud and then manage those clusters that may be sitting in AWS or Azure or somewhere else in a very, very simple way through that same control plane. And so it's further simplifying how you deploy those clusters and how you manage them, and bringing you the power of GKE and Anthos together.
Yeah, no, I love that demo of just showing a single G-Cloud command, because for someone today, you could deploy Anthos on AWS, but you'd first stand up that management cluster and then spin up user clusters. It wasn't hard, but can I just simplify that? Can we take more responsibility? And it looks like we have. So I think it's really just a simplification story. Awesome, this one's for me somehow. So awesome. So how do I choose between GKE Autopilot and Cloud Run? Look, Autopilot's amazing. It feels like serverless Kubernetes, right? I mean, that's why it's kind of magic on how that behaves. And it's still all Kubernetes under covers. There's no goofy extra extension-y stuff. This is just GKE. And Cloud Run is also kind of a serverless environment. So when you look at the difference between the two, really it's about, to some extent, do I want Kubernetes? If I'm deploying marketplace offerings, I'm deploying a database, I'm deploying stateful workloads, Autopilot's going to be amazing there, right? So that one's pretty powerful. And then at the same time, if I'm in Cloud Run, and as you mentioned earlier, right, if I've got a lot of managed services, I'm using Spanner, I'm using Pub Sub, I'm doing AI ML, and I'm putting some code in the gaps to connect the dots, to add some API endpoints, Cloud Run's amazing. So I don't know, I think when I look at this and we look at customers, it's often the case where if I want Kubernetes, GKE is clearly a great choice. If I'm building compute-intense systems, as you mentioned earlier, GKE is amazing and Autopilot's awesome. And when I'm just trying to run some containers and I'm building things that kind of connect dots between other managed services, Cloud Run is best in class.
Yeah, it just depends on your starting point, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But again, not too many choices, but just enough. Awesome. This is another one for Sachin, as this one's coming from the Ford Motor Company folks. Is Anthos open source? Is there any support available? Is this just DIY, live your life, or are we actually behind the product helping people as a commercial offering? Help clear that up.
Yeah, so first of all, in terms of open source, it's built on Kubernetes. And so built on open source components for sure. It enables our first-party software on top, but also third-party open source software that can run in that containerized or VM environment. As far as support, it's been, we now have more and more partners, more and more customers trained on Anthos. Anthos is the foundation of Google Distributed Cloud as well. And so we continue to invest heavily to ensure that the training, the enablement, the skills, the capabilities get built up in our customers, in our partners, to continue and support those deployments. Yeah. I don't know if you want to add to that on some of the Anthos efforts.
No, it's a great answer. I mean, we see so many people take all this amazing open source and build platforms, which can be powerful. And Anthos is actually 30-something odd open source projects that come into one curated, integrated, tested, packaged commercial product, as you say. And the multi-cloud support isn't best effort. We test this and certify it on Azure, on Amazon, on-prem, on bare metal. So I think that's pretty powerful stuff that, I know some people can still get a little bit like, what in the world is Anthos? And I think it's important for us to remind people that, Anthos is really a way to build and manage distributed fleets of infrastructure. And so what a powerful way to do that in a supported fashion from the folks who created it.
Hybrid, multi-cloud with hardware, software together. I mean, yeah.
How do I manage a bunch of GKE clusters all over the place?
Exactly.
That's a really powerful, hopeful, simple way to understand this sort of thing. Yeah, have you continued to see that uptick as well in Anthos? I know we're starting to see some of the growth there. You're happy with where things are going?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we continue to see great customer traction, and now with more as-a-service solutions with Anthos, Anthos for VMs, Anthos for bare metal, continuing to meet customers where they're at.
Putting it in distributed cloud is a powerful story for customers because, again, I can make one investment in my skills, and now I can take advantage of this in a lot of places.
Yes.
Awesome. So next we want to go to Vidya with this, give poor Sachin a breather. And so Fabian's asking, with everything, and containers are all over the place, should I just opt for Cloud Run instead of App Engine? What's the future of App Engine in this context? I like these edgy questions. Vidya, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so App Engine is obviously a very successful product for us at Google and serverless. However, we see containers as a very, very strong position for the future of development, as you could see with all the demos that we had, and with technologies such as Cloud Run, as well as GKE Autopilot that has come into play. It has got the benefits of portability and better integrations with the rest of GCP as well as the cloud. So that's the way we look at it.
That seems like a good answer. I mean, Google Cloud's got a lot of these stable services, a lot of customers on App Engine, but it's nice to have alternates as people are looking for other integrations, things like that. Cloud Run is continuing to be a big investment. It's awesome. Sachin, this one's for you. Security questions. I mean, I was personally impressed with a lot of it and enjoyed a lot of the keynotes from yesterday as we looked at all the investments we're making in security here. Like if you're trying to make a choice on security, I think Google Cloud's your best choice, and not just because I work here. But how secure are some of these clusters out of the box? When we're thinking about, and I'm assuming this refers to Anthos, when we stick either an Anthos cluster or a GKE cluster off-prem, or even just a GKE cluster sitting in Google Cloud, how do you think about the security story, and how secure is this by default?
By default, what we're trying to do is turn on all the best practices that we recommend so that the communication channel that you described is secure. If customers want to manage that with their own keys, they can. But we want to make sure that all the best practices, so that if it's the data's in transit, the data's in rest, that by default we can keep that on for customers. But, I mean, you should add some more Anthos-specific maybe security capabilities that we turn on.
Yeah, as you say, there's a lot of important things around OS hardening, how we distribute bits. They're coming from us. So you can trust that as well, that we're putting them through the paces. But then with Autopilot, arguably one of the best parts of Autopilot is we just enable all the security stuff by default, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing as an end user myself when I send up stuff. So if you're turning on the right sort of encryption at rest settings, you're turning on the right role-based access, you're turning based on continual updates for patching, I think that's pretty awesome. So in a lot of these cases, we're defaulting to secure.
I think one of the other questions we get is, how do you handle this then in the air-gapped environment? Right. So now, like, how does the customer get software updates? How do they make those secure?
Yeah.
And so what we do is we take that software, we publish it to a repository. The customer is able to download it outside their air gap, check it for any vulnerabilities, test it out on their own, and then move it into the air gap, and then the platform will automatically deploy it. And so there's some additional checks that they're able to add when they have those very strict sovereignty data privacy needs, and need to be able to check any piece of software that's coming down.
It's powerful stuff. All right, last question for you. I could ask you questions all day, but I'm being told I have to ask you a last question. So John wants to know as well, so I'm assuming this refers to distributed cloud. Whose hardware is this, and who does it run on, and do you manage the hardware platform as well? Let's at least refer to distributed cloud. Are we managing the hardware? Is it coming from Google? Are we making the kits, or is it coming from partners? Lay that out for us real quick.
Yes, so it's prescriptive hardware that we provide and we manage, right? And so in terms of how it's supported, again, that's done through us. We can do this through partners as well. And so what happens is for example, in an air-gapped, in the hosted mode, you may need to have a trusted partner. Customer may want a trusted partner who's actually doing the operations in terms of, hey, I'm adding a rack or adding more hardware components. But the software that we provide manages that hardware infrastructure that's deployed on-prem. And the beauty of it is the control plane there is completely disconnected from Google Cloud as well. So you have both those options. The edge mode where it's connected, we can do it centrally across many sites, or hosted where that control plane is local, but we still manage the hardware.
Super powerful stuff. Love that. So thank you, Sachin. Thanks to all of our guests who we threw questions to on the demo set. So it's been awesome hearing from you all, getting all that feedback. Be sure to hop over to the Cloud Next site and stay tuned for Phil and Sunil talking about security. Thank you.